what's up? As a serious sandwich enthusiast, I am particularly in love with the Turkey Club. It's basically a double-decker turkey BLT. But the thing is though, that this sandwich is tall, it's complicated, and it's often made poorly. So today, I'm gonna show you all the details that you need to know to make a perfect classic Turkey Club sandwich at home. To get started, I'll need some turkey. I've got a 5 to 6 pound skin-on turkey breast here. The skin acts as a protective layer during the roast and helps keep this giant piece of meat from drying out. Now to prep it for the sandwich, I'm going to wet brine it. For that, I'll combine 4,000 grams of water, or 4 liters, then 400 grams of salt and 40 grams of sugar. I'll give that a vigorous whisk to dissolve it, and if you're wondering, hey Bri, why aren't there herbs or any other flavorings in this brine? Well, this sandwich is gonna have a lot of different flavors going on, and I think a bunch of sage or thyme or garlic or whatever would add complexity and lengthen the shopping list without bringing a ton of payoff. Now, once this breast is fully submerged, I'll move it over to my fridge and brine it for as little as 12, but preferably 48 hours. 2 days later, I'll pull this brined turkey out of my fridge and then immediately preheat my oven to 275F. Next, I'll scoop this breast out of the brine and then set it up on a wire rack on a half sheet tray. My master plan for juicy, tender turkey breast is twofold. Part 1 is this wet brine. That's gonna help the turkey hold on to most of its liquid while we're cooking it. And part 2 is cooking it very gently. This lower heat causes the muscle fibers to contract less violently and keeps the turkey juices from being squeezed out. Now I'll set a timer for 2 hours and check back then. In the meantime, I'm gonna make a zesty little condiment that I used to make at Union Loafers. We called it Famous Sauce. It's based on the popular condiment made by Durkee's, and the thing that gives it its signature flavor is hard-boiled egg yolks. To make it, I'll drop 12 eggs into a pot of boiling water and cook them for 12 minutes. Make sure the water is at a full simmer, but not a ripping boil. That's gonna make the eggs bob up and down violently, and that will break the shells before the white underneath is fully set. 12 minutes later, I'll scoot this pot off the stove and then drop it into my sink, where I'll promptly cover the eggs with a bunch of ice. I'll give those 5 minutes to cool down, then I'll give them all a peel. Next, I'll break the white and pop out the boiled yolk. In total, 12 eggs should yield me about 150 to 160 grams of cooked yolks. What do I do with the whites though? Well, obviously I'll eat that 4 grams of protein per egg and get frickin' yoked. Yum. To make this sauce, I'll combine 150 grams of cooked yolks with 40 grams of white distilled vinegar, 20 grams of sugar, 5 grams of salt, 10 grams of mustard powder, 2 grams of sweet paprika, and 150 grams of nice tasting mayo. Next, in goes my immersion blender, and I'll spin this up until the yolks are smooth and everything is well combined. Of course, you could do this in a blender or a food processor, but it's not a lot of volume and you'd probably have to stop and scrape down 4 to 5 times to get it to properly spin up. And there we go, a luscious, very unique sandwich condiment. It's tart, rich, eggy, and tastes like a picnic. I think Lauren said it best, actually.
It's like a really delicious deviled egg filling.
Back to the turkey. It's been roasting for about 2 hours at this point, and it's looking lightly golden brown. But I don't want much more color than this because it'll get dried out. So I'll pull this out of the oven and stick it with my instant read to determine doneness. I'm looking for 147 to 150F. This is a large piece of meat, so it's gonna carry over another 5 to 10 degrees as it rests. And oh baby, is this gonna be moist. For now though, I'm gonna let it rest completely before I slice it. So I'll set it aside and grab another crucial component for this turkey club, bacon. I'm using a pretty thin sliced bacon because thinner bacon has a much higher potential crunch factor, and that's very important for a club sandwich. To crisp it up, I'll load this into a 375F oven to bake it while I quickly thank AG1 for sponsoring this video. If you haven't heard of it, AG1 is a daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body nutrition. I first got turned on to it because some of the science and health podcasts that I listen to endorse it, and as somebody who's always trying to optimize for health, you know, except for when I'm not. AG1's become part of my daily routine. AG1 includes a comprehensive list of science-driven vitamins, probiotics, and whole food sourced ingredients that replenish daily nutrients with just one scoop. I usually drink mine in the morning, but if not, it's also great for a midday focus boost for the days I'm just not feeling that good or have been eating kind of crappy. It's got rhodiola, magnesium, and B vitamins that support energy throughout the day without the caffeine crash that you get from coffee. So to try AG1 for yourself, head to my link in the description to get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 K2 plus 5 AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. When I travel, I eat like an absolute monster, and these travel packs have been very clutch. Again, use the link in my description and you'll get 5 of those travel packs and the D3 drops for free with your first purchase. 30 minutes later, this bacon is 100% rendered, so I'll pull it out. As you can see, it's deeply reddish brown and has been dehydrated into a brittle little shingle. It needs to be stiff as a board when you lift a piece like this. Okay, a few more little details here. The first of which is to get a few slices of ripe, juicy tomato. This is an heirloom tomato that I picked up at Whole Foods because that seems to be one of the only places to get something that's even close to a summertime tomato outside of the summertime season. Next, I'll wash up some green leaf lettuce. I like green leaf over the more trad iceberg because it's less waterlogged but still has some fresh crunchiness and flavor. Lastly, let's talk about the bread. For me, the ideal choice is a loaf of my classic panned white bread. I developed this recipe for my ultimate BLT a few years ago, and now it's a staple item in my recipe book. It's soft and tender, but not squishy, and has much more structure and flavor than standard issue grocery store white. The full recipe for this bread will be on my website, and a more detailed process is in the BLT video. But here's the Cliff's Notes. You'll combine the dry and wet ingredients in a stand mixer and mix for 8 to 10 minutes on medium-high speed. And once the dough passes the tug test, I'll flip it into a bowl, round it off, and ferment it for 2 hours. Once it's gassed up like this, I'll flip it out, shape it into a tube, and then proof it in a loaf pan for 90 minutes. Once it's grown by about 2.5 times its original size, I'll score it with my bread lamb or serrated knife, and I'll bake it at 400F for 25 to 30 minutes. You guys, this is a super straightforward beginner level bread recipe, and it hits very hard. If you wanted to use store-bought bread though, go for one of the heartier white breads that's sliced a little bit thicker and doesn't have the texture of angel food cake. Now, I've sliced my homemade bread into about a 1/2 inch thickness. That's pretty thin, but remember, this is a 3-slice sandwich, so it's gonna be plenty of bread. Now that we're all set up, it's time to cut this turkey. First things first though, I'm gonna peel off that skin. That was great for keeping the top side of this breast from getting leathery in that long roast. Now, I'm gonna cut the breast in half so we can see exactly what we're working with. As you can see, it's rosy pink and quite juicy for a fully rested turkey. Oh, and by the way, that pink is from the salt brine, not from the meat being undercooked. Now, to prep this for the club, I'm gonna take my sharpest knife, in this case a 10-inch slicer, and then I'll kind of shave this meat as thin as I can get it. Don't worry about perfectly thin slices here because there is no way you're gonna get deli style slices by hand at home, but you don't really need to. Unlike deli meat, this turkey is tender, juicy, and delicious at pretty much any thickness. That's thanks to the proper brining and gentle, slow roasting. So I just let the knife do the work here and shave it as thin as I can get it without really worrying too much about ripping off a thick slice. Once it's all cut though, you can see this stuff looks pretty beautiful. It's thin and lacy and was all cut by hand. If you don't want to fuss with trying to shave it, you can certainly just cut a thick slab like this. This is also a great eating experience. It's just not as visually appealing. Of course, a minimally processed store-bought deli turkey that's been sliced thin is also on the table if you don't want to wait 2 days and then 2 hours to build a sandwich. That stuff's pretty good. Now to build this club, I'm gonna drop all 3 of my bread slices into my toaster and very lightly toast them. 45 to 60 seconds is more than enough. If you over toast the bread, it'll be crusty and glassy and it will punish you by tearing up your soft palate. And once this bread is just kissed with a little golden toast, it's time for construction. The bottom layer gets a full tablespoon of my eggy famous sauce. Then I'll drop a few leaves of my crispy green leaf lettuce, a thin slice of tomato. That'll get some salt and pepper right on top, of course. And then next, I'll drop 2 slices of bacon that I've broken into 4 halves and shingled. Then I'll lay about 3 ounces of my thinly sliced turkey breast. And to finish the bottom half of this double-decker sandwich, I'll lube up the middle slice of bread with some plain mayonnaise on the bottom side. From there, I'll drop it on the sandwich and give it a firm press to ensure internal sandwich strength. Okay, for the top half here, I'll smear some famous on the bottom, then drop some lettuce, tomato, salt, pepper, then shingled crispy bacon, about 3 ounces of turkey one more time, and then finally I'll generously slather the top piece with plain mayo to both glue the sandwich roof, but also to lube things up with a bit more creamy fat. Now, after a firm press to make sure everything stays together, the last little detail here is to secure the whole sandwich with some frilly sandwich picks. If you're looking for the cool guy ones with the colorful tips, you can get about 1,000 on Amazon for $6. Link below if you want to have enough for the rest of your life. Then I'll carefully but confidently slice this club sandwich on a bias. Without some sort of internal scaffolding, this sandwich would get torn apart during the slice here, so I highly recommend having some picks. And oh my lord! Ooh. I live for a good sandwich cross section, you guys, and this is one of the prettiest of my life. Now to serve, I'll cozy up some ruffled potato chips alongside my club, and of course, drop down a crunchy, cold little dill pickle. You guys, sandwiches are harder to get right than they might seem. To get this many flavors and textures prepared and combined properly takes some real care and attention to detail. And when it comes together, it is truly special. This club sandwich is rich, crunchy, juicy, tangy, and salty, but in a good way. And that deviled egg flavored famous sauce is a real treasure and should be on most sandwiches. Fellow sandwich enthusiasts, please let me know what you think about this club sandwich in the comments, and please try it soon. Let's eat this thing!